Okay, terrific. So this is the only mic and none of these. You know, when I ask for 2 or 3 or 3 to 5 minutes of your time at the beginning of a program just to chat, I didn't exactly know that it would bring this much commendable attention to the Washington County Public Affairs Forum and to the old spaghetti factory. And I'm glad that I'm doing my small part in promoting public discussion and in better business in the state of Oregon. Now, you all have seen stories in the press in the last couple of weeks, and as a result of those stories, there is a legitimate, very legitimate public concern about my conduct last October, about the state of my health, and my ability to do the job that you have selected me to do. And so I've been getting all around the congressional district trying to address all of those issues. First of all, let me be very clear that I take full responsibility for the things that I did and said last October, for things that I shouldn't have said, for things that I shouldn't have done, some of which led to the staff departures that you all have heard about. And as a consequence of some of those actions and as a consequence of the staff departures, which were a very, very clear wake-up call for me, I sought appropriate professional help. I continue to get appropriate professional help. I've worked through those issues and gotten to a very good place. I'm taking good care of 2 little kids. Well, they're not so little anymore. I'm taking good care of my kids. I'm taking good care of my 88-year-old mother. Actually, she's kind of taking care of us. And I'm taking care of myself. As a result of taking care of my family and taking care of myself, I am very able to take care of my constituents here in Oregon, very capable of discharging the obligations that you have entrusted me with in the last election. I look forward to being with you to answer further questions. I'm going to take a few questions today, but I look forward to being with you to address the issues that are really important to the 1st Congressional District of Oregon in greater detail. Because I want to assure you that I have those in mind all the time. Nobody leads in the United States Congress in technology and innovation the way that I do. Nobody understands cybersecurity the way that I do. Nobody has worked on health information technology as much as I have, on internet freedom, and on the connection between cybersecurity on the one hand and internet freedom on the other through technical standards, and how technical standards can promote cybersecurity, can promote internet freedom, and can actually promote economic competitiveness by our high-tech companies, or if we get technical standards wrong, how it can undercut our competitiveness, undercut internet freedom, undercut cybersecurity. If we adopt the Chinese approach of doing those things, it'll undercut all those things. These things sound very, very wonky, and they are. But these are precisely the issues that matter to the 1st Congressional District of Oregon and to Washington County especially. I'll come back and talk about those things. But first, I want to reassure you that I am emphatically doing the job here, that our office is just about fully staffed up, fully staffed in Oregon, and almost fully staffed up in Washington, D.C. And I guess on one final note, to me, perhaps the most disturbing thing about what's happened in the last couple of weeks is that I've let the story become about me. The story should never be about me. It should be about you. It should be about you and the challenges that you face every single day. So when the story has become about me, that's a reversal of what it should be, and I want to turn this around and in the future have this story be about you, the challenges that you face, and what I am doing to help you solve those challenges. I look forward to it. Thank you very much for having me here, and I look forward to taking a few questions too.
Okay, we will start from the left side as we normally do. And again, as I've indicated, let's be pointed on the questions. With limited, have congressmen be able to answer as many questions as possible. Oh, you got one now. Very good.
Let me switch to that one. We know it's the same level.
For a member, question I have is slightly different. My impression from what I've heard and read and seen is that the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader are bound and determined to not give way on any means toward what has been called shutting the government down in 2 weeks. This puts a bunch of stress upon the Democrat members of Congress, and how has that stress affected you in other areas?
Thank you, Forrest. There are a few other things going on in Washington, D.C. and in the world these days. There have been a few changes in the Middle East, and has been a very narrowly averted full federal government shutdown at Friday night, midnight Friday night, March 4. We passed a continuing resolution for 2 weeks. That means we face the next potential shutdown Friday night, March 18. We need to keep the federal government funded and going forward. The new Republican majority has about 110, 120 members in it. Many of those new members and the members of a group called the Republican Study Group actually feel that a shutdown of the federal government is a good thing and something that they ideologically want to achieve. I strongly disagree with that. It means that Social Security checks won't go out. It literally means that our military won't be paid. It's a very, very important thing to avert. I think the Speaker of the House, Mr. Boehner, Speaker Boehner, really wants to reach an accommodation of some kind. I want to make sure that the technology programs upon which we count for our future economic growth, the education programs which train our population to get there, and some of the programs that help the most vulnerable populations in our nation, such as low-income heating oil and community health centers, that those get adequate funding to carry us forward, because we can't be cutting on and placing the burden on a very small part of the federal budget while ignoring 70, 80, 90% of the problem that should be addressed in the medium and long term. Thank you, Forrest, for that very important question. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, we're alternating.
Chris Leslie, foreign member. This is my blue side. The idea
I like that side.
The idea of Social Security checks not going out, I understand, is not part of the real budget of the government. And what are your plans to help us downsize the government, not eliminate it or shut it down?
The Social Security checks, the actual money that's in the checks, if you will, that is not in appropriated money. That is in the other half or more than half of the federal budget. However, the money to send the checks out, to actually pay for the employees and the machinery to send the checks out, that is appropriated money, and so the checks stop. The long and the short of it is that the checks stop and all payments stop. If you look back to what happened in 1994, Social Security checks stopped for the period of time that there was a government shutdown, and then there was a catch-up phase. Now, there are government programs which should be terminated and which would save a lot of money. I have consistently voted for, and this time we won the vote. I helped win the vote in shutting down a second engine for the F-35. It's a single-seat fighter, but we're producing two different engines for it. We're going down that path. The interesting thing is that Speaker Boehner was the author of the amendment to restore funding for the other engine because a lot of the work was done in Ohio, where he's from. And we actually defeated that proposal. It saves billions of dollars. That's one example of saving money going forward, and there are examples in each of the federal agencies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi,
Howdy.
Al.
Al Young, forum member. There was a vote to cut a measly $4 billion from this year's appropriations as part of the ongoing appropriation. Only about a fourth of the Congress voted against that. And some of those voted against it because it wasn't enough. Now, the paper indicated that you had voted against that. If you can't cut a measly $4 billion, how can we entrust you going forward to make the kind of cuts that most of us feel are necessary?
Al, I'm really glad you asked that very technical question because, it gives me a chance to explain this vote.
No, but it's not
because-
technical.
It is the answer is going to be technical because it's very, very important to education. And I was the only member of the Oregon delegation to vote against that cut. And there's a very good and important reason for it. And that is because that particular set of cuts targeted education. And, I'm the education guy for the state of Oregon. And what happened is this, Al. The president, in his proposed budget, zeroed out a bunch of education accounts to create a bigger account to improve education. In essence, he took away a bunch of little buckets in order to build a big bucket. The sleight of hand that was in this continuing resolution was, he zeroed out those accounts, so he took away those buckets and we'll just stick with that. The trick, the sleight of hand, was that they took away the little buckets. They didn't build the big bucket. So I'm all for cutting $4 billion. I'm for cutting more, and that particular cut on the jet engine saves a lot more than $4 billion. It's just that this particular set of cuts, one of the consequences was a big cut, percentage-wise, in the federal investment in education. It looked okay because it followed the Obama administration's policy of zeroing out and taking away these little buckets. I dug down deep into the budgetary documents, and I knew that it took away the big bucket that the administration wanted to build, and that's why I voted against it. Quite frankly, I wish that more people had, because we could have taken that money out of somewhere else. I would have gladly supported that particular continuing resolution.
I look forward to a town hall meeting where people can pin you down on that.
On this particular one, that's the full answer. Let's have a town hall meeting on budgetary issues overall. And let me just offer to come back later on the spring or during the summer, and we can have a free-ranging discussion because, there are a bunch of discussion items on the table right now, but it's a changing kaleidoscope of very, very important issues. Just to give you a flavor, I'm just going to take 1 second. Last week, for example, I was meeting with Senator Mary Landrieu about small business innovative research grants. That's something you don't hear very much about, but it's absolutely crucial to Washington County to create new small businesses based on new research. I've been working on that legislation for 5 years. That program was this close to being reauthorized at the end of the lame duck. But I was meeting with Senator Landrieu over on the Senate side last week because we have a unique window to get that legislation passed. This coming week, I'll be meeting with a person whom we call a cardinal, who's basically a chair of an appropriations subcommittee, about internet freedom and this program that actually gets TV signals broadcast into China, and you can get telephone calls back out of China. So you know those teletown halls that I can do with you all here at home? I've actually done that twice, broadcasting TV into China and getting the signal out. The Obama administration has zeroed out that account, and I'm working with a Republican to fight that back. And that's very important because that was important for, well, it's potentially important for Egypt, it's potentially important for Iran, it's potentially important in a number of repressive regimes to try to enhance freedom there. So I'm looking forward to coming back to you to speak about those things. There is no shortage of very important issues going on, and I look forward to coming back. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that that my presence has perhaps occupied a little bit more space than it normally does, but we will do this more often. Thank you all very much for your time.